Ulonkata bati yada tó yẹ kó máa da ifá. Inú tó yẹ kó jẹun ló fi bí pa. Ọbàtálá ọba takuntakun. Ṣàngó Èṣù Ògún Ọya Ọ̀ṣun. Ìwọ ló ń bọ̀ nílé. Kí ni ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ tán ṣe nílé yìí o? Ó jẹ́ lọ jára.
Peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Arisha Bemi, and today I have on one of the masters, Professor Hiawatha Kamene. Baba, how you doing today, Professor Kaba?
Hey, my brother, I am doing excellent. Everything is all right. I want to thank you for inviting me on your program. We've done this a number of different times, and it's always good to come back with good folk to share the knowledge and wisdom, brother.
Likewise, and it's always an honor and a pleasure. I never get past having these calls and these conversations. Like from the first one till now, it's always special. And so I'm definitely looking forward to doing this and bringing that good, strong ashe to the people, man.
That's it, brother. And I see African Spirituality Experience. If you break it down, that is ashe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it's been a while since we did this like this. So we caught up. I think Sunday when we was catching up, just kind of going over, a lot of things that's taken place since the last time we've had another one of these conversations. But with that, Professor Cobb, before we get deep into the topics of what we had, what do you think about the debate, the politics, and what took place the other night? What's your take on that?
Well, I remember Malcolm, when he was with us. And this was when he was out of the Nation of Islam, and he had gone to Africa and come back. He had formed the Muslim Mosque Incorporated and the Afro-American Organization of Unity. And I saw in Malcolm, this is my own concept, because, I taught a college course on Malcolm for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I taught him 22 times.
Wow.
And each time, even though I had a somewhat understanding of who he was because of Dr. John Henry Clark, who was one of his teachers, I still went and did research and experienced with the students, learning more and more about Malcolm as I expanded. And I came to realize his genius as it related to why he would build two organizations instead of one.
Mm-hmm.
Muslim Mosque Incorporated, that was for Muslim. That was a religious movement.
Mm-hmm.
The Organization of Afro-American Unity was a political or a social organization. And Malcolm had he had transformed his knowledge, and he had gone into the idea of understanding the role that politics plays with us as a people. And a reporter asked him a question because of something that he had said, and he said, "Well, are you saying now, Mr. X, that black people should vote?" And he said, "No, I'm not saying they should vote. What I'm saying is that they should become sophisticated in what politics is."
Mm.
And he said the bottom line is that we as a people should home grow our leaders from the community.
Mm.
By teaching them governance. And when I look at that, I think of Ma'at, the symbol of Ma'at: truth, justice, balance, harmony, order, arrangement, and reciprocity. The idea to understand that what goes around comes around, that you shall reap what you sow, and that your actions are going to call upon you, your actions, and sometimes sevenfold.
Mm.
Leadership is service to the community. The one person that should be the poorest should be the one in service to the community. And what I have developed my own thoughts in terms of politics is governance. As a people, we have to learn how to govern ourselves. We have to learn how to do those things that will assist our people in becoming the people that they should become, particularly our young people. I think that we take politics too personal, and I think that we as a people I don't use the word emotional, but we're very spiritual. And the idea of who our leaders are should come from an absolute love of the people, to be in service to the people, to ensure that the basic needs of the community are met. No human being should ever wonder where they're going to eat, where they're going to sleep, the clothes that they have on their back, and the safety and security of themselves and their children and their family. And so when you are in hell, even angels have to act devilish. And one thing I've come to realize, brother, we have to learn how to play the game. Politics in the Western world, they don't love you.
Right.
They want to use you. Malcolm X told us that Republicans are brute wolves and Democrats are sly foxes. But they both belong to the dog family.
The big facts. Yeah, that's real too. That's
We have to learn how to use them as they are attempting to use us. We have to stop looking for love. We have to stop thinking in terms of they like us. No, they want your vote.
Mm.
Or they want you not to vote so they can neutralize your power.
facts.
We have to learn how the game is. And so my motto has always been, vote for the person that will do no harm.
Mm.
Somebody says, I'm going to kill you tonight. The other person says, I'm going to kill you next week.
Mm.
Who are you going to go with? I'm going to go with the person that says they're going to kill me next week, because that gives me a chance to change their plan.
Facts.
I don't go with the one that's going to kill me tonight, because then I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to handle that situation.
Right. Right.
Neither one of the parties mean us any good as black folk. As I have observed this political system, as I've observed it every voting season,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that I've come to realize is that I have not heard anybody speak to the African American community specifically.
Right.
I've heard them speak to all the other communities.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that they want their vote. But they've not directed us because they seem to think that they have us in their pocket. And so we as an African people have to come up with a very specific way of looking at developing a political party that can negotiate our demands.
Mm.
And have them have to address our needs, as opposed to thinking that you got me in your back pocket. And my thing is, we need to look at the Black Panther political party.
That's facts. That's facts. That, and then look, I was gonna say I got some of my books with me. I was ready for class, but also, putting into action Neely Fuller's work, Brother Neely Fuller. Yeah, so it's like it's out there.
Absolutely.
The strategy, all that.
And Harun Neset and I worked on a Black Panther manual and a Black Panther code. And what we did, interestingly, is we took those 9 areas of Neely Fuller, and we put them into action. And I call it Rel Cell Wep. But with due respect towards Brother Neely Fuller, and I know he mentioned it in the book, I created a 10th area. Rel is religion, economics, and labor. Cell, although I have a problem with the word sex, because sex brings something else into mind. Sometimes when we use the word sex, we think of the physical relationship.
Right.
But really, sex is gender, or what I consider to be male-female relationships. You have the next area is the E, which is my area, that this is my lane that I drive in, and it's education.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you have law. And then you have WEP, WEP, which is war or security. Because you see, bro, you can have everything in the world, but if you cannot secure it, you're only holding on to it until somebody stronger come along and snatch it from you.
Right. That's facts.
We've had a lot of things, brother. We had the world at one time.
Yeah.
And they snatched it from us. We had a number of different things, and they snatched it from us. And that's because we didn't secure it.
Right.
The next E is entertainment. See, we have to understand, like, a lot of people got bent out of shape with Beyonce or Beyonce when she did that country album.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why they did that was because Sister Black.
Right.
But there's some factors they haven't taken into consideration. First of all, Beyonce is from Houston, Texas. You can't get no more country than that.
That's facts. That's facts.
And not only that, but black people created country music.
There you
We
go.
brought the banjo over here. We brought the harmonica over here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
We entertained people of European descent. They ain't got no music. We got the rhythm.
I see.
And so every time we get into something musically, they co-opt it and then they make themselves the kings and queens of it. Okay. Rock and roll, that was us.
Mm-hmm.
Rock and roll is an African American term that men and women use when you talk about physical engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Brother used to say, I'm going to rock and roll you tonight, baby. We're going to rock and roll tonight. That's where the term came from. Rock and roll. And then it was applied to music. And then the ninth area is politics, governance. See, those are 9 areas that Neely Fuller identified. Rel, Cell, Web.
Mm-hmm.
Religion, economics, labor, sex or gender issues, education, law. Here's another thing I say about law. We ought to understand Moorish science temple law.
Yes, sir.
However, we must get our lawyers who are in school, in law schools, to study Moorish law. We should not be going into that courtroom by ourselves thinking we're going to start quoting Moorish law.
Right. Right.
We need to leave law to the lawyers who are professionals in that area. Because you can say one word and that can condemn you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the judge say to you, do you understand why you're here? If you say yes, you're already guilty.
Right.
That's just the way the law works. Now, we don't know that.
Right.
Okay, but if we say, no, Your Honor, I don't understand why I'm here. The whole thing has to stop. He has to send you back and have your lawyer talk to you. And then you go back into court, and the judge said, now do you understand why you're here? No, Your Honor, I just don't understand.
Right. Right.
Okay, so I mean, that's just something, that's one of many different examples that we ought to understand. And if somebody wants to get down deep into it right now, you need to download Black's Law Dictionary right now.
Yes, sir.
And you can get it. You can download it right now.
That's facts.
Politics. You have to understand politics. And the Black Panther Party was a group that did that. But we need a political party.
Yep.
And that is what Brother Stokely Carmichael or Kwame Ture was attempting to do down in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Was to create a Black Panther political party. And the reason why he chose the Black Panther was because the symbol for the Republicans is an elephant. The symbol for the Democrats is a donkey. And many of our people could not read or write, but could still vote. But if they were not literate, they could not read as to who they were voting for. And Stokely Carmichael said, well, let's take a symbol and make it a panther.
Mm.
He said, because Black people do know the difference between an elephant, a donkey, and a panther.
That's facts. Big facts.
Now, the area that I add, my brother, is health and nutrition. Because if we don't get our health and nutrition together, those other 9 areas don't mean a thing.
Yeah, that's facts.
You
Especially
can be as smart as you want to, but if you're sick, it don't make a difference. You could be the greatest politician in the world. But if you're not healthy, it don't make a difference. You can be the
Right.
greatest spiritual leader in the world, but if you're sick, it's not going to make a difference. So I've added the 10th area that we have to focus on, which is health and nutrition. And we have to look to our Dr. Sebi. We have to look to our sister, Dr. Ma'at, his wife. We have to look to Brother Victor Bowman, his son. We have to look to Queen Afua and her book, Sacred Woman, to understand why sisters got to get themselves together health-wise, because you bring forward the world.
Yes, sir.
So I agree with you. Neely Fuller outlined it. And in each of these areas, what Haruna said and I did when we created the manual, we listed people and their books that we could go to get more information in those 10 areas.
Mm.
And we want to go teach it in the community.
Yes, sir.
We want to show it in conjunction and respect to the Black Panther Party that exists right now. No difference. We're not trying to form something different. What we're trying to do is we're trying to add to what's already here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't you receive a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Panther Party, like maybe what, a year or two ago, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, from the Louisville faction.
Right. Yeah, I remember. I think we spoke either right before or right after you received that.
Yes. Brother, we've been working, I was a cub when the Black Panther Party was formed back in 1966.
Mm.
And old heads, we call them old heads, they were like teenagers, 17, 18, 19. They used to bring a group of us. They used to put us on the handlebars, and they would take us various places. And I know that that's who introduced me to Professor John Henry Clark when I was 12 and a half. They also brought me to Black Panther Party meetings. They also went to Nation of Islam meetings on 116th Street in Harlem, the one that Malcolm was in charge of. And so I had a chance to be able to be with our brothers and sisters and to learn as a young man and the impact that the Black Panther Party had on me. See, you're not going to see me in a picture with a gun in my hand. I was too young to be that part of the Black Panther Party.
Right.
But I never forgot what they taught me. That was where I first heard my Kiswahili words.
Mm.
They taught us culture, when they would have the breakfast programs. There was so much I learned from them. And it wasn't just what they taught us, it was how they felt towards us as the younger community. They realized the importance of us as young people.
Mm.
As I have through my life being with children and educating them here in the Bronx, my college career, I realized the importance of bringing this message to our people, to our children. We ain't got time to play. And the other thing is, don't get out your lane. Okay? I'm an educator. I know a little bit about all those 10 areas. I've been going to Dr. Sebi since 1988.
Mm.
Okay? I know I've worked on Congressman Adam Clayton Powell and the then to become Congressman Charles Rangel's campaign to become Congressman for Harlem. My undergrad work is in international politics.
Mm.
So I know a little bit about all those areas. Security, I was in the military during the Vietnam War. I know a little bit about all that, but that's not my area of expertise.
Right.
Education is my area. And I want to thank my brother, Dr. Ben Carson, for teaching me a most important lesson. Dr. Ben Carson, I used to use his book when I taught language arts 8th grade. I used to use his book, Gifted Hands, in my class to read, 8th grade.
Mm.
And I remember that he was interviewed by a brilliant journalist by the name of Gil Noble that had a program in New York called Like It Is. And I used to show that interview that Brother Noble had with Ben Carson. And I was just dazzled by this brother who would perform intricate surgery, brain surgery on infants and separate them.
Mm.
His brilliance and what he did in medicine. I was astounded. I was taken back. But then he left medicine and he became a politician. And the lesson that he taught me, my brother, and to the family that's listening, is that a most brilliant human being in his area, in his lane, can become an absolute fool when he leaves his lane.
Mm.
Now, I can understand because sometimes you want to do something different. But if you realize that ain't your lane, you better get back where you're good.
That's
Because
facts.
that's double ignorant. Because not only aren't you good in the lane, but you don't know that you're not good in the lane. And so you stay in it and make more mistakes. So that although Dr. Ben Carson would have been known as one of the most brilliant brain surgeons to live in the modern world, he will be remembered as a fool for what he did in politics.
Mm.
So I stay in my lane, bro.
I know that's right.
I stay in my lane because I know other lanes, but I'm not an expert. I'll leave it to the spiritual leaders,
right,
to deal with the religion. I'll deal with the labor leaders to deal with the labor.
Right.
I'll let the lawyers deal with the law. I will follow Sister Ma'at and Victor Bowman as it relates to health and nutrition.
Mm.
But when I'm in education, I got game.
Yes, sir.
And I know I got game. When I step into a classroom, that's like Michael Jordan stepping onto a basketball court in this.
Man, listen. Look, and I done seen it live multiple times, so I already know what it is for real.
I feel it, brother. It's the very essence. It's in my blood, man. Just like I got white blood cells and red blood cells, I got education in my blood.
Yeah. I remember when we was in Miami, I think we went like 12, 14 hours straight.
Oh, yeah.
When we was in the store that one day when we had that exclusive the private event we had.
Yeah,
I think it was literally about 12 to 14 hours straight, like nonstop.
Yeah.
We stopped to eat. Yeah. But
I
with that,
remember. Jacksonville, I did 2 days.
Yeah.
You and your queen came. I did 2 days there.
Yeah.
Because I had so much to say.
Man, listen. Yeah,
but
it's real.
when you find your lane, stay in it. You can interact with people in other lanes to learn. That's fine.
Right.
But don't get in there as an expert. I've been a teacher since 1977. I've taught every grade. I've taught every subject.
Mm.
I've taught from pre-kindergarten straight through PhD candidates in college. And my wife and I raised 3 children. So I was teaching babies in the womb.
Yes, sir.
So I have a good sense of how education works. I know the intricacies. Stay in your lane. And be dedicated to that lane. And don't be arguing when you get in the lane. In the religious lane, you could bring the greatest Christian ministers, the greatest Muslim imams, Hebrew Israelite rabbis. You can bring in monks from Buddhism. But the idea is not for you to proselytize or to get people to join your organization. It is to let your organization service the people no matter what their spiritual system may be.
That's facts.
And you must include voodoo. You must include Santeria. You must include candomblé. You must include the obia of the English-speaking Caribbean. And don't forget Louisiana's hoodoo. Because whether the Baptist ministers know it or not, you ain't nothing but a hoodoo priest.
Look, you beat me to it because I was going to go into 1804. Like that's where I was going next, because one of my favorite parts of that movie is when you talked about Ogun, when they had the meeting in the swamp.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't invoke them unless it's time to get busy.
That's right. That's right. And brother, while we're here, I would like to pay tribute to our brothers and sisters from Haiti, particularly our brothers and sisters in Springfield, Ohio. I want to send some black love out to them. And I want them to know that we love you, we respect you, we honor you. We know that you are us and us is you. And we understand the game that's being played on you, putting you at risk. Because we as black people, particularly in America, we have been at risk from the moment those old pirates, yes, they robbed I and sold I to the merchant ships. But minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, our hands were made strong by the hand of the Almighty. And that's what happened in the swamp with Cecile and with Boukman. Their hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. And it becomes important that we understand this. So I send my respect now to our brothers and sisters from Haiti and let them know we understand your greatness.
Oh, yeah.
And whatever is happening on the island of Haiti, we pray that we together can do something together in the interest of our people to raise the Desalines and
yes,
the Boukmans and the Ceciles, who once again will allow Haiti to rise and become a model for the black world worldwide.
Yes, sir. I share. Yeah, that's real. And you know, I love that you went into that, because that documentary, I don't feel like, as far as people that I've crossed paths with, I feel like a lot more people should have watched that documentary. And if you haven't, I'll definitely share the link to it in the description. But it's something that we all as a people need to watch, because a lot of people don't even know that, you know, the Haitian Revolution took place. But the story behind it, from which, you know, the documentary is extremely powerful. Extremely powerful.
Absolutely. And you know, brother, a lot of people don't understand the role that revolution played in the United States.
Right.
Because Napoleon and the French was getting their butt whipped. And they needed some quick money.
Yep.
And so that Louisiana Purchase, what's very important to understand about the Louisiana Purchase is not just that the colonies got it at a dirt cheap price, but that part of the deal was the Mississippi River. And when that Mississippi River was sold to the colonies, all of a sudden the West was opened up, because what separated the colonies from being able to get to the West was the French occupation of this area, and they couldn't cross over into the Mississippi River. But when they were able to cross over into the Mississippi River, this is where now you're going to have some dynamic stuff going on, because you're going to have a brother by the name of Jean-Baptiste Pointe du Sable, who's going to travel up into Chicago. And he's going to found that city. So we know the history. And we know the impact that it had on the United States. If any country should have thanked the Haitian Revolution, it should have been America. But they wouldn't recognize them, because they understood that if they recognized the black nation, then they knew the black people were going to give them trouble. So Thomas Jefferson wouldn't recognize them. It's powerful, brother.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That documentary was so powerful. What's interesting is that before that, all of the hidden colors that Brother Tariq Nasheed had done, 1, 2, 3, and 4, the hidden history of the revolution of Haiti in 1804 separated the hidden history documentaries. Because after that came Hidden History 5, 6, and 7. So it was like that transformed the very direction of where that information and that documentary series was going.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was in every one of them.
Right.
Except this latest one that dealt with hip hop. You know,
butt breaking?
The
I
mic.
don't know if I saw that one.
Yeah, man, that's about the evolution and the history of rap music.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was in the historical one.
Oh, yeah.
This was a musical one.
Gotcha.
But the idea is the fact that, you know, we understand this. And, you know, I didn't want to let this type of conversation go by, particularly what we're talking about in terms of spirituality, without sending regards out to our brothers and sisters from Haiti, wherever they may be in the world.
Yes, sir. I sure. Yeah,
Great people.
That's real. So with that, Professor Kaba, because I know we don't have as much time as I would always would like to have, which would be a lot. But as far as that, there's a lot to cover with where you are because you always got something out. You always got something new. You, I think, sparked me to learn a whole lot more about astronomy, about stars, about the cosmos, about the heavens, and how they affect us on the planet, and how they play a major role with us in our story. So I think one of the first videos that I saw of yours were Black People Come from Sirius. And I don't know how many times I watched that video, but I watched it so many times, even my sons could tell you, like, like they know that video because I watched it so many times because it was so powerful to me. It was profound, the story and the legend of the Dogon, you know, and you talked about the nano diamonds, you talked about carbon, you talked about melanin, you talked about Sirius A, you talked about all the things that play a major role in us as a people and as you know, the descendants of the greats who built the pyramids, which you just came back from, I think, a couple months ago in June. So with that, I know you have the new book coming out, Carbon Before Melanin.
It's out already.
Right. And so with that, can you kind of share the connection between Sirius and, you know, with the pyramids and Kemet, and then with us as a people, and how, you know, Kemet is Kemet, but there was a lot of contributions from West Africa as well that played a role in Kemet. So can you kind of touch on that for the family, Professor Kaba?
Well, and see, this is the connection that we have to understand. The connection and how we're all connected as it relates to a people. And I know that we get caught up in talking about Africa. I understand that. I do it myself. We so caught up in Africa, we're arguing whether or not Africans called it Africa. Or did they call it Al-Kibalan? And my thing is, I don't care what we called it. Personally, I don't think they had a name for the continent. From the philosophical perspective of my study of African people, it appeared to me that they were more concerned about the name of the nation than they were about trying to define an entire continent. I don't know if that was important to them. But when you're trying to steal land, it becomes important to know where you're going to put your fence up. And so with the Indo-European invasion of the ancient world, unbeknownst and very shallow and superficial in terms of their understandings of the world, they started putting things into boxes. And they started creating fences. And this is you, and I'm here, and this, I'm here, you're there, you're this, you're that, as opposed to understanding how powerful it was to look at themselves collectively as a human family. But because of geographic, many times it was geographic that decided what the nation would be. They could have been bounded on one side by the East Coast. Maybe their northern boundary could have been a mountain range. Maybe their western boundary could be a lake, and their southern boundary might be a pit where they didn't go past. And so in that area, hundreds, if not thousands of miles in length, possibly, they then would call themselves somebody or something, like the Omo people. Or they might call themselves the Kush, Kevs. They might call themselves Dogon. Whatever they might call themselves, they would develop an understanding from that perspective. What we have to do is that we have to bring back all of the members and remember and bring all of them together as one. And what I cite is a book by the ancient Kush Kemet people. Some people call it the Book of the Dead. I call it the Book of the Coming Forth Today by Night, which means you're coming forward to enlightenment from ignorance or darkness. It's chapter 43, where they talk about bringing themselves together and to become one again. You know, I've knit my bones together. I've made myself whole and sound. I have become one again. I am Asar, the Lord of eternity. And I see that concept in a great deal of writings from the Orishas. Okay, I know we have many Orishas. But all of the Orishas are united under one concept. And they are emanations of the one creator that is unseen, that is unknown, to be dared to put a name on, because the creator remains nameless, but recognized as the creator of all. We see the same thing in the Dogon. We see the same thing in the Bambara. We see the same thing in Ghana. Okay, you can go to Southern Africa and see the same story. Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop wrote a book titled The Cultural Unity of Black Africa. And just like that faith system from Nigeria that we call Yoruba, with the Orishas, came to this hemisphere. For those Spanish-speaking Africans, they call it Santeria, the sainthood. If you were French and you stolen from Africa, it was called voodoo. If you were in Brazil, it was called candomblé. If you were in the English-speaking Caribbean, it was called obia. And in the 13 colonies, it was called hoodoo. And out of this came an emanation. It was called syncretism, because we were so smart. We knew that if we celebrated the African tradition, we would find ourselves in very serious trouble, because the oppressor wouldn't hesitate to kill you. And so what we did is that we took their religion and we superimposed their religion over our African spiritual system. And so as we began to develop this relationship and these connections, this is why we see that there are so many. If you go into the book Dark Light or African Psychology by Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum, brilliant scholar, he shows you a chart of all those religions. And he shows you where each one is the same one, but just in a different language.
Yeah.
And here we are as a people fighting ourselves over a unity of mind because the language is different. But we don't know what we're saying is the same exact thing, just in a different language. And this is in the book I wrote, Spirituality Before Religions. This is what I was trying to get to. Okay.
I was digging fire earlier, so
Okay. I appreciate your support, brother.
Listen, I had a question from that actually, but I don't want to interrupt though. I'm gonna save mine until after you finish.
No, well, let me stop and let's talk about your question.
So you know me, I'm gonna do my studying and be prepared the best that I can. But what I did is I went through all your work today, just to kind of go through it and refresh myself. But I started, I think, with the Shabaka Stone, because I wanted to, if I could, I was gonna try to get into the Grand Unified Theory by Dr. Gabriel Yibo. So it was like I wanted to go into that too, but I got into spirituality before religions because we're talking about spirituality, Ashe, African spirituality, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things that I talk about to people all the time is how I love to give homage and pay homage and due respect to the mothers, where we're talking about the macrocosm to the microcosm, as above, so below, as within, so without. And in terms of this life as a whole, the mothers, I feel like, are the equalizer in terms for us, coming into existence. But in the very last chapter, chapter 7, in Spirituality Before Religions, you talked about the Black cosmic mother who gave birth to all things that exist. So I don't even want to go any further. I'm just going to ask you if you can kind of share with the people what you felt like was the significance of ending that masterpiece with paying homage to the Black cosmic mother.
What is so very special to me is to look at energy. Men and women on the earth, male dogs and female dogs, male cats and female cats, all those things that come in gender are really emanations. They're really emanations of an energy that is male and female. It's the energy you got to look at. We are manifested on this planet through our mothers who have two X chromosomes. Our males, our fathers, have an X and a Y chromosome. If the father's X chromosome mates with the mother's X chromosome, you will have a girl.
Mm.
If the father's Y chromosome mates with the mother's X chromosome, you will have a boy. But the manifestation of that comes out of the fact that God is the only androgynous, both male and female entity in the cosmic universe.
Mm.
God, Yahweh, Allah, whatever you want to call your creator, is simultaneously man and woman. But in order for the creator to be able to manifest him herself on the planet, they have to separate their creations and give them both different energies. And it is when a man and a woman are in that embrace that they have joined and become God again. Because when a man is within a woman in that act, they, two people, become one.
Mm.
And that's God.
Gosh.
And when it get real good, isn't that who we call on? Oh my God. Okay. So that what's important is to realize from a certain perspective, brother, you're dealing with energy. And so that black cosmic mother is the cosmic universal womb. And the father is something known as panspermia.
Mm.
Pan meaning all and sperm meaning seed.
Mm.
And it was sometime in history where that seed impregnated the womb of the universe. And then implosion occurred. In science, we call it the Big Bang. And in that Big Bang, something is materialized out of the energy. And that, in the cosmos, was superclusters, clusters, galaxies, stars. Stars give off, become planets. And then on the planets was manifested a life system that started in the waters as bacteria.
Mm.
And then came plants. And then the plants became fish. And then the fish became amphibians. The amphibians became reptiles. The reptiles became mammals. And then the mammals went through a process of life history upon which we, the masterpiece of the universe, the human beings, walk the earth.
Mm.
And we have three gifts that the other manifestations of creations don't have. And we have intellect, reason, and language. We have a brain structure that allows us to gain knowledge or intellect that we then think about, upon which we reason. And then after we reason and come up with certain concepts and understandings of the world around us, we then transmit that information through language. Three gifts that we have. Those three gifts is what makes us a masterpiece. But when we don't exercise the greatness of Ma'at, we become master fools. We got a whole bunch of master fools out here now.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have to understand what it is that we have to do. So even to go back to your original question about what's going on now in terms of politics, This is the masterpiece versus the master fool.
Mm.
And the one thing I want to tell our people is that the master fool can only last but so long. Because nature don't tolerate foolishness. We must walk with our ancestors. And we must understand that within us are our ancestors. And if I took you back 500 years to the year 1521, and if we looked at the fact we have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great grandparents, 16 great great grandparents, if we went back 500 years, indirectly and directly, when you want to know how many ancestors you have within you, this is math now. This ain't emotion. If you wanted to go back 500 years and ask yourself how many ancestors dwell within you that have come into existence over the past 500 years, you have 1,048,576 human beings came into existence to bring you, brother, into existence, to bring me into existence, to bring everybody that's on call here listening to this program. You have 1,048,576. It is called e to the 3, exponential expansion equation, where n equals what generation you're talking about. And I'm going to drop the other shoe now, because I only took you back 500 years. If you have 1,048,576 human beings come into existence to bring you into existence over 500 years, how many ancestors do you think you have if I took you back 5 million? You never walk alone. You are a manifestation of every human being that dwells within you. And when you get back far enough, you only have one ancestor, and that's the Creator.
That's facts.
So the numbers are 1,048,576. 1,048,576. That's it. Okay, because when we do these kind of programs, brother, people be looking at you and they're gonna come at you.
Oh yeah.
And I want to make sure that we're exact on this, because this is science. This ain't personal. This ain't superior or inferior.
Yep.
This is stone cold fact. It's e to the 3, exponential expansion equation.
Oh yeah, yeah. And speaking of that, one of the things I think I say one of the lessons that I learned from you, that was one of the most profound lessons, was when you broke down the grand unified theory based off of the work with Dr. Was it Oyibo?
Dr. Gabriel Oyibo, Oyibo. Right. God Almighty Grand Unified Theory.
Can you kind of share with the people just a little bit, just kind of break it down, like the significance of the God theory, the Grand Unified Theory, based off of Dr. Oyibo's work?
We're looking at science. And from my work with Dr. And also I encourage anyone that would like to take it further, that you can go on YouTube and Google Booker T. Coleman and Gabriel Oyibo. Because we got together back in the 90s, 1999. And our good brother, who is now an ancestor, our good brother, Minister Clemson Brown, videotaped us together. And Dr. Gabriel Oyibo was talking about his work on the Grand Unified Theory. So to break it down like this is, back in the middle 1800s, there was a man by the name of Max Planck, Planck. Max Planck. And he came up with this thing called the quantum theory. Today it's called quantum mechanics. But basically, that was the study of the inner world from the skin in. In other words, the atoms. It studied the atoms. And it studied the makeup of the atoms as it relates to the neutron, proton, electron. And out of that, they came up with certain formulas to solve for the atomic world. Now you come up to 1905 with Dr. Albert Einstein. And he came up with 2 theories. one theory, but in two forms, and that would be the theory of relativity. And he came up with the concept of the idea of the different forms in the cosmic universe. As you look at the planets, it was the general law of relativity and the special law of relativity. And these two laws talked about the different dynamics like electricity, magnetism, gravity, okay, and the weak and strong forces in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And out of this, he came to realize that there were certain laws that brought that forward in terms of studying the sun and the planets. But for me, what's interesting is that on the front cover of Carbon Before Melanin,
Mm-hmm.
what you have is you have the carbon atom that has 6 atoms to it. Okay? And up here, I have the sun and the planets. Okay? And they look alike.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the atom, you see the neutron and proton in the nucleus, and you see the electron that's circling the nucleus.
Mm-hmm.
When you go out into the universe, you see the sun and you see the planets circling around the sun. So what I was trying to speak about in Carbon Before Melanin was this grand unified theory.
Mm-hmm.
Because scientists then began to say, well, if there are special laws that go along with the inner world, the atomic world,
Mm-hmm.
and there are certain laws that go as it relates to the outer world or the planets, is there one grand law that unifies them?
Mm-hmm.
So that the same laws that deal with the inner world also apply to the outer world.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Dr. Gabriel Ayibo that is Shabaka stone.
Mm-hmm.
Because in his mathematical equation, I could put every one of his variables into the Shabaka stone. The Shabaka stone is the Old and New Testament put together.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the key. They had it in reverse. The Old Testament will make you believe that Judaism or Hebrewism predated Christianity. And that's not how it happened. Christianity was the Amen priesthood. And Hebrew or Judaism is Atanism.
Mm-hmm.
Amenism existed thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Akhenaten existed in 1300 somewhere BC.
Mm-hmm.
But they reversed it because the actual Bible wasn't written, at least when you look at the actual writings of the Bible itself, Old and New Testament, they were not written until, as it relates to the Romans, until maybe 200 to 300 years after the Common Era.
Mm.
Because up until then, Imhotep was the Jesus of the world.
Mm.
That black man of the third dynasty.
I see.
You see, what they did is they confused it. And so now here we are as a black people trying to figure out our Christianity, and we don't realize we wrote the book.
Mm.
And we carved it in stone.
Mm.
And it's a beautiful book. Because this is the other thing, brother. I don't put no religions down.
Right.
Because I know they all came from Africa.
Facts.
My problem isn't your book. My problem is your interpretation of the book.
Mm.
Because if you're looking for God out here, you ain't never going to find God. But if you go into your bathroom, look in the mirror, you're looking at God.
Facts.
And don't ever forget that. But if you knew that you were God having a human experience, why do you need these people to control your life?
Mm.
Because religion's a big business.
Oh yeah.
They making buku bucks, and they don't
Yeah.
pay tax.
Mm-mm.
Tax free.
Yep.
The money you give them, they tax you on that money, but they don't tax them when you give it to them.
Yep.
I got a problem with that, fam.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we got to start thinking real clear now.
Yeah.
I ain't telling you to give up your Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you to Africanize.
Mm.
I'm not telling you to give up Islam. I'm telling you to Africanize.
Mm.
I'm not telling you to give up your Hebrew Israelite or your Jewish faith system. I'm telling you to Africanize it. And the same with Buddhism and Confucius and Rosicrucian and Zoroastrian. Africanize it. And that is what spirituality before religion was about.
Yes, sir.
Don't give it up. If that's what guides your life, hold on to it. But look at it from your perspective, not from those who wish to oppress you.
Mm.
That's all I'm saying.
That's facts.
And carbon before, see, the book I wanted to write was Shabaka Stone. But for me to write Shabaka Stone, I had to break it down in terms of spirituality before religion,
Right.
to give you the background information that would allow Shabaka Stone to make more sense to you. And if you go to my website, kabakamane.com, www.kabakamane.com, you'll get a 6-day free e-course that will prepare you to read spirituality before religion.
Mm.
That will make Shabaka Stone clearer. But you see, as an African, and since we're talking about African spirituality and the experience of it,
Mm-hmm.
my first book I wrote was dedicated to William Leo Hansberry. William Leo Hansberry, this brother here, was the first brother to create the first curriculum on African studies in an accredited college, which was Howard University in 1923.
Mm.
And it is African tradition to always pay homage to those that came before you start off on a life's journey. And in 2014, I began the life's journey to begin to write my books. And so this book was my homage to this brother. If you, oh yeah, okay, bro, I appreciate
Got
you.
all of them, man. Listen.
Okay, I
Hey.
appreciate you.
Yeah, I don't play.
So you got to understand what this brother did for us. And before I could even write spirituality before religions, I did an intellectual libation to this brother, paid homage to him. And I let the community know what he had done and how he did it and how exact he was. The brother joined the ancestors in 1965, not too long after Malcolm X was assassinated. He was in April 1965. And what this brother did was just phenomenal. And so what I did is, in paying homage to William Leo Hansberry, was my opening to be able to do my work. I then put up on my website the 6-day e-course that would prepare people for the next book that I was about to write, Spirituality Before Religions, that breaks down the entire Kush Kemet culture to help us understand how a book like Shabaka Stone could have been written. This was the book I wanted to write. I was first turned on to Shabaka Stone. My mother gave me a Xerox copy of a book that would later that year be republished.
Mm.
There was a book titled Stolen Legacy by Dr.
Look.
George G.M. James. Page 139 to 151 pays homage to the Memphite theology rewritten on Shabaka Stone. When I read that chapter, I was so taken back by the genius of this brother that I said, one day I have to write a book about that. That was back in 1976, family.
Mm.
And I fulfilled my promise. But as I was doing my research and as I was doing the work I was doing, I came to realize that the next step in understanding Shabaka's stone, the astronomy and African theory on the origin and continuing development of the cosmic universe, in order to understand this, I then had to take the creator that they were talking about and bring him down to earth.
Mm.
And I published this in March of this year, 2024.
I see.
Okay. And the subtitle of it is Creators on Earth. It has a double meaning. It has creators as apostrophe S, which is a contraction.
Mm-hmm.
For those who know language art, it means creator is on earth. The creator is on earth. And then the other is plural. Creators on earth, which is you.
Mm.
You are the creator on earth. The creator is on earth, and you are the creator that is on the earth.
Facts.
Male and female. Let's not get it twisted.
Big facts.
And so that is the journey of my writing of the books that I've written, and I'm working on the fifth and final in this series. And this is going to manifest the creator in who I'm calling the Moors before the Moors.
Mm. Listen, we're going to have to do another one about that.
Let's humanize the creator now.
Yes, sir.
Let's humanize the creator. Who is the creator? Well, let me show you who the creator is. Before you start going up into space and looking for aliens that came down to Earth to build this, you need to understand it was black people that built it.
Mm.
And every time I hear someone talk about aliens coming down and building civilizations that black people would follow, I think of people who are attempting to get people not to understand that African people are the creators of the pyramids, of the temples, of all of the Zimbabwe Great Wall, the Great Wall of China. Black people built that. When you go into parts of Vietnam, black people built that. When you come to America, black people built mounds. Stop trying to take credit away from the original people.
Mm. Big facts.
So this is what the journey is. I'm working on that fifth book right now, but these are the books, and this is my latest book, Carbon Before Melanin. And the reason why Carbon Before Melanin becomes so important is because this book, brother and family, is the book that talks about, because, you know, when I used to go to Dr. Sebi, I invited him to come to one of my presentations on melanin.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Sebi came, okay? Later on, I would visit him in Brooklyn at his Usha Herbal Institute on Pacific Street, right there where Barclays Center is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, Dr. Sebi, what did you think about the presentation on melanin? He said, Booker T, you're always talking about melanin, but it's carbon you got to focus on. It was carbon before melanin. And then I studied carbon. And what I came to realize in the book written by a brilliant scholar by the name of John G. Jackson, he wrote a book titled Introduction to African Civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And in this book, he traces the development of the earth and then African people. And in his description, he talked about the four major atoms that's on the planet. There are others, but the four major ones:
Mm-hmm.
hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon. He said, when you look at these atoms, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, you can only connect no more than four at one time. You can put 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, you have H2O, you have water. You can put 2 parts hydrogen, 2 parts oxygen, you have hydrogen peroxide.
Mm.
But with those 3, you cannot put any more than 4 together to create a molecule.
Mm.
But with the introduction of the carbon atom, that's what creates the hundreds of thousands, the millions of molecules that exist, carbon is the cosmic glue that creates all things. So when Dr. Sebi said it's carbon before melanin, he was correct.
Mm.
Because you can't get a melanin molecule in place where you connect the nitrogen with the oxygen with the hydrogen. You can't get that if you don't have carbon.
Mm.
And so carbon before melanin. Now, let me just, for those that would be interested in this, let's talk about the fact that you have something known as the periodic table of elements. But the periodic table of elements is also carbon, is also atoms.
Mm.
Number 1 is hydrogen, number 2 is helium, number 3 is lithium, number 6 is carbon. Okay? So what's the difference between an atom and an element? And so let me take you to an ice cream store. Let's break it down like I talk to children. Let's go to an ice cream store. And you look up on the wall and you see a list of flavors. That's the atom.
Mm.
And let's say you see chocolate. You say, oh, wow, yeah, I think I want a chocolate cone. And then you see caramel and you see strawberry. The scoop of ice cream is the element.
Mm.
And let's say you want to put 3 flavors together. That's the molecule.
Mm.
Okay?
That's deep.
The atom, the element, and the molecule. In this book, I describe why it's important to understand the difference as it relates to the carbon atom, the melanin molecule, the melanosome granule, and the melanocyte, which is the cell.
Mm.
It becomes important to understand the difference. Because, and I have visuals in here. And this book is important to me because I felt it was very important to put the picture on the page. I don't have an appendix in this book in the sense of putting the photographs up. Because psychologically, I believed it was important. Let me tell you something else that I did psychologically in this book, Carbon Before, because this shuts the whole room down. Because, see, I don't want to play around with people no more. You know, we have to get this information to our people, to our children.
Yeah.
So let's not play around no more. Let's get to the point where we're exact in what we say. When I have had books, what I notice is that the glossary many times is in the back.
Mm.
No, that's not where the glossary should be. I begin the book by showing and identifying work by Dr. Carol Barnes in his book, Melanin, the Chemical Key to Black Greatness. And he has a list of facts about melanin. And then he has a list of the potentialities of melanin.
Mm.
I begin the book by putting that there.
Mm.
Because before you even get into melanin, I want you to know facts about melanin, and I want you to know the potential of melanin.
Mm.
Okay? And then I follow that up with the glossary by Dr. Richard King. Because, okay, let's go back psychologically. Okay, we're reading this, okay, and you come upon words like free radical.
Mm-hmm.
You come upon books like words like neuromelanin or eumelanin. You come upon words like respiratory system and things like that. What I wanted to do was to give you the glossary first, because if the glossary is in the back and you're reading the book, a lot of times you say, well, I'm not going to go all the way to the glossary. Sometimes if you haven't gone through the book, you don't even know there's glossary in the book.
Right.
And then at the end, you get to the glossary, you say, oh, damn, I didn't even know what those words meant. I should have looked it up. The other thing is, many times, if you know the glossary is in the back, maybe sometimes you don't want to go all the way back there to be able to understand what the word that you read on page 5, the glossary is in the back on page 245.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I put the glossary following the facts and the potential of melanin. So you got the definitions right up front, so that when you get to the word in the book on page 245, you know what it means. I never understood why vocabulary and glossary was in the back. It should be in the front of the book.
Listen, what's that saying? They say when the student is ready, the master will appear.
Oh yes, man.
Look, you the one that you put me on the game with that with star seeds.
Okay.
Like literally, I put the vocabulary in the front of the book based off of what you just said just now, and even like the facts of talking about carbon and melanin, like all that was based upon the teachings of what the video that I saw. And I was like, yo, this is dope. Like to the point where it drew me to write a whole book about it, a children's book about it, because it was very profound. At that point in time, I think that was like maybe 2011, 2012, maybe, I think, when that video went up. I'm not sure.
We were in a hotel when we talked about that. Remember, we were sitting in the room talking with the brother that had brought me in.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna share that video on here. I was just talking about that yesterday. I had a call with another brother yesterday, and we were just talking about that. And the reason why I brought it up is to try to hopefully inspire people who have a dream to create a book or want to write a book or start a podcast, whatever it is. My message to them was like, yo, do it, because you never know how the stars can align for you, for it to grow, to germinate, to permeate, to expand. And I never would have thought that interview would have happened, the way it happened. But because I was prepared and ready, I feel like that's the only reason why it happened, because I actually, put the work in. So I definitely know that's real. That's a real thing for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, like I tell people, you can do anything you set your mind to. That's why I used to tell the children in my class all the time. I said, the only person that stops you from fulfilling your greatest desire and thought is you. And our ancestors on the plantation proved that. They had everything working against them. What was it within them? You talk about starseed, brother. And by the way, that's a genius book that you wrote, and that should be in every family library. That should be. Because I remember when you shared that with me and we started talking about, different concepts and things like that. That's a book that should be in every household. And even if you ain't got children, if children come to your house, that should be a book that they can pick up and read.
It's coming back out too.
It's very important, brother. I tell the children all the time, you're born with a Messiah and a Judas. Each and every one of us is born with a Messiah and a Judas. The Judas is in you for you to always know. And that voice that's telling you, you can't do that. You can't succeed. You ain't all that. Don't do that. Like when you talk about someone that writes a book, that voice says, you can't write no book. But you talk about write a book. Who want to read your book? Who are you that people want to read your book?
Yep.
That's the Judas in you. And then the Messiah says, but you can write a book. And it can be a book that a lot of people can get benefit from. All you got to do is put your heart and soul into it. And you can do it. And then Judas is there saying, no, you can't. Messiah said, yes, you can. You were born with it. Just do it. And it's according to who you let win that argument. That determine what's going to happen with you. Judas is there to make you better. Judas is there to specifically make you lean more towards your Messiah. See, in Christianity, I tell this to people and they just look at me, they're shocked. The hero of Christianity is not Christ. The hero of Christianity is Judas. Because if Judas hadn't betrayed Christ, Christ wouldn't have been crucified and Christianity wouldn't exist. Sometimes that force, that what you perceive to be the most negative, is the one that's going to shape you to become the person you should be.
That's real.
And so you don't fight like try to get rid of Judas, because the day you get rid of Judas is the day you get rid of the Messiah. What you do is you put Judas in his place. Judas will fall 9 times, but the Messiah rises 10. In everything in life, you will fall. The strong will rise. The weak will stay down. If someone knock you down, it's their fault. If you stay down, it's your fault. This is what our ancestors taught on the plantation. Couldn't read or write, couldn't calculate. But they knew resurrection the next day. And if they had given up, we wouldn't be here.
Facts.
If Judas had prevailed, we wouldn't be here. We have no right to let Judas win.
Facts.
We must rise. It's written in the stars.
I say. Yes,
You know what I'm
sir.
saying?
Oh,
Some
yeah.
say it's just a part of it. We have to fulfill the book.
Yeah.
Bob Marley's my man.
Yes, sir.
I quote Bob Marley like Malcolm quotes Elijah Muhammad. Okay, because that brother, he was really, really very powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's
pirates, yes, they rob I. Sold I to the merchants. This was the last song on his last album. Oh, pirates, yes, they rob I. Sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit. But my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Have no fear for atomic energy, because none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We have to fulfill the book. And then he says, won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? Won't you help to sing these redemption songs? This is the message that Bob Marley, knowing that he was going to join the ancestors, gave us. We
That's
have
powerful.
no right to stop. We have no right to think we can't do this. If our ancestors could do that in their time, we can do this in this time. And I believe we're doing it as we speak, my brother, because the work that you are doing is fulfilling the book. The work that I'm doing, the people who are on board with us right now, be it live or when you bring this back after you record and edit it, everybody watching, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Facts.
Is Judas winning or is the Messiah rising? It's all right to fall. We all got Judas. I got Judas.
Yeah.
This was the Asarian drama.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the Yoruba Orishas, you've got it right there.
Oh, yeah.
Chango, Obatala, Jemaja, Oshun. It's there. The human aspect of it, but you're also divine. When they said that Jesus was half man and half God, the African tradition says you all God and all man, because God is man and man is God. And his man is God.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And look, I got goosebumps when you was singing the song, the Bob, because I heard like when as you were reciting that verse, I just remember like they did an impeccable job with that movie. And I just remember watching the movie, and at the end, you know, all the children, he was literally like strumming that song. Like you could see him putting the song together around the bonfire, and he was playing the guitar. I remember I got goosebumps then because I felt it. You know, I felt that. And honestly, to hear that, it brought me back to, I went to Nigeria and Ghana earlier this year, and I remember walking through those slave dungeons. And when I tell you I felt that energy, Like I felt it, and it's just like I could just hear myself speaking to the ancestors internally, like, yo, we need y'all. Like we here, like we here to do the work, but we need y'all. We need y'all with us because we ready.
Yeah. And you know something, brother? They are with you.
Oh yeah.
Just call them forward. They're there.
Yeah.
They're there. And what the oppressive society hopes is that you don't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
They were with you before you went there.
Right. Yeah.
All they felt was, okay, I can touch the brother now that he's here. He will know I'm within him now.
Oh yeah.
But they've been with you all the while. They were with you before you were born.
Yeah.
They brought you into existence for you to be able to fulfill the book that they had written.
Mm.
And it's important that we understand this, and it's not spookism. I'm not going into the twilight zone. What I'm telling you is a real scientific fact that's based in nature. Just look at nature.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the seed that you plant that comes forth. Because that's where spirituality came from. As I outlined in Spirituality Before Religion, when Africans saw the seed that was placed in the earth, they saw in time, out of that came a fruit, a plant, a flower. And that plant lived, grew, aged, died, decayed, and next season came back again. That's where spirituality came from.
Yeah.
The idea that man plants seed in woman, baby grow, born come up out the earth, comes out of the mother, grows, ages, dies, decays, and then resurrects.
Yes, sir.
That's the God-inspired story of resurrection. Because every religion is based on resurrection.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the resurrection of the soul. And this is why I take particular effort in Spirituality Before Religions to talk about the difference between the spirit and the soul. Because it's important to understand the difference, because a lot of people think spirit and soul is the same thing.
Right, right.
The spirit is what's in all of us. My spirit and your spirit is the same exact thing. Your spirit and my spirit and the spirit of everybody watching this is the same. But our soul is what makes you who you are and me who I am.
Mm.
It's like a vast ocean. That ocean is made up of drops of water.
Mm-hmm.
And in those drops of water, we are those drops of water, but what part of the ocean isn't the drop of water, and what part of the drop of water does not contain the ocean?
Mm. Yes, sir.
And each of us is born with the everlasting, eternal story of the cosmic reality.
Mm.
All the lights are out. Can't see a thing. You turn the light on. You see the television, the computer, the table, the pictures on the wall, the chairs. My question is, did all those things appear in the room when you turned the light on? No. They were always there. Your light just wasn't on. That's what this is. You possess all the knowledge that has ever existed, that exists, and will ever exist.
Mm.
All you got to do is turn on your light and understand it's there.
Oh, yeah.
Every woman is born with every egg she will ever produce.
Mm.
Eggs are not manufactured in a woman. She is born with all the eggs that she will ever produce. Wow. Think about this. When your grandmother was born, your mother was born because your grandmother had your mother's egg in her. But if that's true, when your grandmother was born and your mother was born because of the egg was in her, you were born too. Because your mother, although she was an egg, she had the potential to have your egg when your grandmother was born. Remember those 1,048,576 individuals?
Hmm.
If that is true, as it is, that a woman is born with every egg, then it's also true that you have always existed.
Mm.
You were just waiting to come into existence through generations. Your grandmother came, then your mother came, then you came. But you were in your mother's egg was in your grandmother's egg, your grandmother's egg was in your great grandmother's egg. You can go all the way back. You have always been here.
Yeah.
It just took that time to manifest you.
So I forgot how I got this quote from you. Actually, I've been using it too. It's I think it's always, we always are, always was, and always will be. Somewhere along the lines of that. I was like, yeah, that's
That
dope.
is it. And that is where the Christian church says, as it was in the beginning, so is it now, and it will forever be. That's where it comes from. What they don't tell you is they're talking about you.
That's facts. Actually, I remember it now. I remember it clear. It was energy always was, always is, and always will be. Energy can never be created or destroyed. It always was, it always is, and always will be. I remember that. That's dope.
The science. That's not personal.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's real. Man, I tell you what, it's been phenomenal. I don't know how much longer you got. I know we're running up on time, so I don't know how much more time do I got, because I don't want to keep
Brother,
it too
let's do
long.
another 10 minutes if you have any more questions, because I know that I can start talking and I don't stop. So.
look, I had me a little bump of caffeine before to make sure I had enough juice, so I'm definitely ready to go. But yeah, I tell you what, since we're talking about, you know, how all this is kind of tied together, right? What is the significance of the heavens? And I even went so far as to get a picture of Sirius to put in our backdrop for today. But the Osirian drama and the heavens and the star of Sirius, and then how that kind of ties into the creation story or the drama of Asar, Set, and Heru, from the Kemite story, the creation story. How does that? Because I know I've heard something similar. I think I've heard you actually speak about this, how when you're talking about, you know, the birth of Christ, you're actually talking about the stars. Is that correct?
Well, actually, when I'm talking about anything in general, all of the different religious stories comes out of the heavens. That is why the three major religions are all astronomical symbols.
Mm.
Christianity is the cross.
Mm.
Okay, and that is because life is resurrected in what we call Aries, or March 21st, somewhere in there. And if it is in March 21st, then that is when the sun, is where the word comes, pass over the heavens.
Mm.
And when it is at its peak, the sun is in the center of the constellation that is called the Crooks.
Mm.
The sun is crucified. It's crossing over. It's passing over the heavens. When I went to Catholic school, I was always in trouble because I had so many questions that I could not understand. Because people used to say, you know, that God was great. Okay, I could get that. And they said the mother of God. And I asked the nun, because like I knew who I was, but I knew that no matter how great I might be, my mother was greater.
Right.
Because she was here first. And everything I needed, I had to go to her for. So she must be greater than me, because if I was great, I wouldn't need her.
Right.
See, this is common sense children's thoughts. So I used to ask the nun, I say, God is great, sister? And she'd say, yes, Booker, God is great. And I say, God is great. She said, yes. I said, well, if God is great, Isn't the mother of God greater?
Mm. Mm.
And then she looked at me with that look. Now, why you want to ask a question like that? Because I can't answer that. And so the way in which the story goes and the way in which they explain the story doesn't make sense to me. I need help for them to understand how I need help in your telling me this story. And so when you look at the cross, I used to ask, I say, sister, and then they'd have that look on their face. Oh, damn, here's another question from Booker. This boy needs to just get to the back of the class. I say, I have a question. Because, we celebrate Christmas, okay? And that's a big day for us, December 25th. And it's always on December 25th. The day of the week may change. But the birthday itself is always December 25th.
Mm.
And she said, yeah, that's true. I said, but then why does the day that he died change all the time? Sometimes it's in March. Sometimes it's in April. I mean, when did he die? Can you give me a date?
I know they was ready to kick you out of that class, man. I know that.
Man, let me tell you something. I just, but see, I was a child. And any adult should know that story you're telling me, if a child is thinking straight, that story don't make sense.
Yes, sir.
Because my questions were very commonsensical.
Mm-hmm.
Why does Martin Luther King was born on January 15th?
Yep.
And he died on April 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we know every year. Same thing. The day may change, but the date remains the same.
Mm.
Now, in Christianity, the day is always the same, but the date changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you always have Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and Easter Sunday.
Right.
So those 3 days stay the same, but the date changes. And I just want to know, when did he die?
Mm.
Can you give me a date? Just give me a date, sister. So that this is why the reason why it changes is because of Passover and when the sun is crossing over the heavens.
Mm.
That's why the date changes.
Mm.
And then you have Mardi Gras, which means Great Tuesday, which precedes Ash Wednesday.
Mm.
But that date changes. But the one thing that don't change is that 40 days after Ash Wednesday is when Easter Sunday is going to be.
Mm.
And that's because of astronomy.
Mm.
When you look at Judaism, it's the Star of Ast, which is the inverted pyramids. That's astronomy.
Mm-hmm.
Islam is the crescent moon and star. It's all about astronomy. So then you got to go back and understand, how can you understand religions if you don't understand astronomy?
Mm. Mm.
How could you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what got me into astronomy. What got me into astronomy was my neighbors from Puerto Rico that practiced Santeria.
Mm. I remember you telling me that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember the house, my friend, I would go visit my friend. We'd hang out. He'd come to my house. I go to his house. We eat or blah, But when they were ready to go into ceremony, and I'd go into that house, the whole house looked different. I mean, they had statues of black people. And I ain't seen that in the church I was in.
Man.
And them drums and the dancing. And, like...
The bimbe. You have the bimbe in that thing.
Listen, they say, mira, Skip. Look at me.
Yeah.
Skip is my nickname.
Yeah.
And they say, mira, look. Mira, Skip. Because I was all up in it, man. I was dancing. They was playing them. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew what I was doing.
Oh, yeah. You felt that ashe.
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
man. I was just up in there and just doing that thing, and then they brought the chicken out.
That-
Oh man, let me, as an 8 or 9 or 10 year old boy,
oh
brother.
yeah.
Oh man, that is exciting to me.
Yeah.
And the
Ball.
prayers and the dancing and the things that they were doing in ritual, in ceremony. So what I tell people is that my movement into Africa was not historical at first.
Mm,
That came later with Dr. Clark.
right.
My entry into Africa was spiritual.
Mm,
It was in Santeria,
mm.
Espiritismo. I was up in it and I was young and I was feeling the spirit and I was
Oh,
dancing.
yeah.
And like they had their circle that they were dancing, and
Hmm.
I'd be all up, trying to, and they always let me in
Oh
because
yeah.
they just felt that this young brother. And by the way, the Puerto Ricans that celebrated this, let's just say their phenotype was not necessarily African,
Mm.
yet they knew they were African.
Oh yeah.
And this is another thing that's missing in our relationship with our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. And even some of them have forgotten
Yeah.
that they're African.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's real.
those that know they're Africans, they know they babalao, they know what's going on. They be smoking that cigar, don't even know why they smoking the cigar.
Oh yeah.
All
Mm-hmm.
of that, all of that is what grounded me in who I became. So when you talk about astronomy, you can't understand. You can't understand religion if you don't understand astronomy. Because astronomy and science explains religion. And
Spirituality.
that's why, say again, brother.
I said spirituality is before religion.
And spirituality is unseen science, and science is seen spirituality.
Yes, sir.
It's one and the same, two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
If I showed you a coin with heads, would I have to convince you that the other side was tails?
Not me.
If I showed you leather, would I have to convince you that the other side was suede?
Uh,
Okay, you know it because that's the way nature goes. When you see spirituality, when you feel spirituality, you know science, and when you know science, you feel spirituality. It's just the way it is.
I sure.
It's just the
Yeah.
way it is, brother.
That's powerful, man. Listen, I hate to end it, but I'm gonna go ahead because I know you got other work to do and things to get done
Well,
too.
also, brother, it gives us a chance to come back at a later date to do this again and get deeper into certain situations because it's a never-ending story, man. And I just want to thank you, my brother, for all that you do to make this happen because you are part of the story. You are part of the book. Because without you, I'd be talking to myself.
Hmm. Listen, I do it all the time.
So together, you
Yeah.
allow me to speak to the multitude. So I thank you for this opportunity to be able to share this information. And I just want to leave the community with an understanding and anyone that's listening to understand this. This comes from my feelings as because a prophet is not a psychic. A prophet is just a good historian.
Wow.
Because when you know what happened in the past, you can interpret what's happening in the present and you can predict what's about to happen in the future. Because you know the past and you've interpreted the present. And I'm going to tell you something, fam. It's going to get better. We are going to make it to the promised land.
Oh yeah.
Dr. King was right. Just like Redemption Song was the last song on Bob Marley's album, I also will tell you that one of the last things that Dr. King told us when he gave his speech at the Masonic Temple in Memphis, Tennessee on April 3rd, he said, I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And what makes that such a magnificent cosmic expression is the fact that that brother knew on April 3rd, when he gave that speech, he wanted us to know that night because he knew he'd be dead the next night.
Mm.
He prophesied. And so it's with that I go to our community and to our children to let you know that we gonna make it.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna keep on keeping on in the spirit of Dessalines, in the spirit of Harriet Tubman and Fannie Lou Hamer and Malcolm X and Booker T.
By any means necessary. Yes, sir.
And Marcus Garvey.
Nat Turner.
In the spirit, yes, of Nat Turner and Bootma.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay. Absolutely. Patrice Lumumba.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the spirit of Elijah Muhammad and in all those that came before us, we are going to make it because they dwell within us.
Mm.
So the next time you think you're having a hard time, just understand that your character is built during times of conflict and controversy, not during times of comfort and convenience. Anybody can do the right thing when it's comfortable and it's convenient, but only a special person can do the right thing when it's controversial and conflict.
Mm.
Our ancestors did it back then. We can do it today. Still we rise.
Yes, sir.
All power to the people, family.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's powerful, man. Listen, and yeah, I just got a new piece of work that I'm gonna get into over the weekend. I got The Rose That Grew from Concrete from our dear beloved warrior brother Pac. And he got some very powerful pieces in here. I'm looking forward to digging into it. But you definitely came and shined the light real bright tonight, Professor Kaba. And I can't thank you enough. I've been blessed with some very powerful teachers, and I do my best to do the work, to pay homage, to all of you who took the time to take me under your wings. And so with that, I give the ultimate thanks and the utmost, because the people definitely loved it. We got people in the comments saying we need a round two. Another brother wanted to get deeper into the political aspects of it. So I told him, we definitely work on making that happen again. But I can't thank you enough. And I definitely appreciate you for all the time that you've always made for me and, all that you've done,
yes. And brother, have the folk, let them know, write out their questions and send it to you.
Gotcha.
And next time we can come together, instead of a lecture or instead of something that we just did like this, let's get together and have a meeting under the African baobab tree.
Yes, sir.
Listen, and let's make it a community event.
I was just about to say, I'm going to have to set that up in the community so that way we could really, really go in. Because, on YouTube, we got to kind of, play it, how we got to do it. But yeah, for sure. I'll definitely.
Questions that you have, questions that you have that, we come on and we do these wonderful fellowships. I enjoy this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But our community has to have certain questions answered.
Right.
That's in their minds, that they're experiencing.
Right.
And I can't guarantee you might like my response. But I will answer it.
Yes, sir.
Because it's my responsibility to answer that question, whether my response is of your liking or not.
Right.
Because like I say, I'm not here to make you believe me. I'm just here to make you think.
Mm.
I've always thought that teachers are not those that proselytize and pontificate. I believe that teachers make you think. And out of those thoughts comes your genius. Education comes from the word educare, or to educe, which means to draw out instead of put in. We have the impression that teaching is the teacher puts something in you.
Mm.
No, the teacher educes out of you the wisdom and knowledge you already know and help you understand you always knew it. Mm. I just facilitated you knowing that you know this. Family, please visit my website, www.kabakamane.com. You get you put your email in, and the first day you will get a free e-course, 6-day e-course, and you get my study guide that will lay all this out, 44 pages study guide, free. Then you have the other information that's up there. My Instagram page is what I use to it's like my community bulletin board. I let people know where I am. You'll see pictures when we went to Kemet, Egypt this June. Know that we're going back to Egypt in December, from December 17th to the 27th. You see, the summer was the summer solstice. We were in the temple of Heru in Edfu, celebrating the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. In December, we're going to be in the temple of Karnak, that was built in honor of the winter solstice, or the shortest day of the year. So we're going to be in Africa in the longest day and the shortest day. And then Heru Neset is going to create a phenomenal documentary on our trip. I've seen pieces of it already. Brother has done a phenomenal job. If you want more information about the trip going to Kemet in December, go to ancestorswork@gmail.com. Capital ANCESTORSWORK@gmail.com. And brother will drop some knowledge on you as to how you can further your interest, and he'll tell you how to get on board to come on out to Kush Kemet and to do our thing, because we're going to have a good time, because I know what to do now.
Yes, sir. And I'll definitely be sharing all the info on the description, Professor Kaba, when I upload it. So I'll add the links to your website, to your IG, as well as to the Kemetic trip in December as well, for sure.
Thank you, brother. And I appreciate this opportunity. And I just say to us, keep on keeping on. It ain't over till we win. Solar power is the future wealth of the planet. Teach the children. All power to the people. All power to the people.
Yes, sir. By any means necessary.
By any means necessary, because we're going to overcome.
Yes, sir.
We are a people. We are a people who will rise by the will of our wills, because no one can curse who Jah has blessed.
Yes, sir.
And if you black and alive in 2024, you blessed.
Yes, sir. Ashe.
We ain't supposed to be here.
That's a mic drop.
There's a divine purpose why we here. Check it out.
Yes, sir. Hey, I appreciate it, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a phenomenal Ashe After Dark African Spiritual Experience Live with Professor Kaba Kabane. I appreciate you, Professor Kaba, man. I can't wait to do it again. I know the people appreciate it. The listeners definitely appreciate it, and the community loves it. So I look forward to doing it again. And as always, I give you my utmost appreciation and gratitude for all that you do. All right, y'all, we out. Peace.
Ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé sàpò ìyàgbọ́ tẹ́ntẹ́ ní takisá ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo ṣe ní gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́. Forsake not your ancestors and pray.